Are you ready for the truth? Bring it on!
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Do you want the whole truth?
I don't think you're ready.
Governments don't control things. A government can't control the economy without controlling people.
It's Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth.
Well, welcome back. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. I want to say I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to more calls, and Eileen and the rest of you calling in, sincerely appreciate it. You're a big part of this show, and I did ask a question, so I'm looking for an answer. The headline of the week, if you could go to the Facebook page and give me your headline of the week, and what this is about is you sitting there going, I get to write for the largest paper in the United States. And, or the equivalent to what the Drudge Report is, or Gateway Pundit, or One News Now, onenewsnow.com, of course, right? There you go. And you get to write the headline that encapsulates the biggest story of the week. What would it be? And what we'll do is on Monday, you write these. And on Monday, I will read the ones that get the most likes. I'll read the top 5. So go to Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. American Family Radio, Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth Facebook page, lock in. And you can also go to Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth and just check it out. Because there's a lot going on that's coming your way. What is your headline of the week, though? And that's what you can do on the Facebook. Please do that. Crane, why do you say the Facebook? Because that's who I am. I'm a kind of guy who married the love of his life, inherited 2 blessings. I watch Matlock, and I call it the Facebook. Oh, yeah, and when I run, I ignore pain. That's why I'm hobbling. And just extra special prayers for my wife, who's had to deal with someone who needs to work out pretty intensely 4 times a week and hasn't been able to. She has the patience of Job. Thank you, Jesus, for Catherine. Thank you for my children. It's amazing. Okay. Well, you've kept your guest waiting long enough, and he does have a limited amount of time, and he takes this time with you weekly, and so you could be respectful of the man. He is one of your family members' favorite guests, and actually 2 of my family members have said this is their favorite segment. Bruce Thornton. He is a research fellow at the Hoover Institution. He is currently a professor of classics and humanities at California State University in Fresno, California. Yes, in the People's Republic of California, we have a man who thinks so brilliantly and is so clear. And his latest book, The Wages of Appeasement, which is fantastic, Ancient Athens, Munich, and Obama's America. Welcome back, Professor. How are you?
Thank you, Crane. Thank you for having me. Always
good to be with you. Now, let's start with the eternal darkness of the progressive mind. let's go there. Because here's what I've been doing. Just a little background on the show. I took Mike Huckabee's speech and realized, they have to grip onto something, falsely characterize it, because everything, if they didn't do that, they'd have to focus on the substance, and the substance was pretty good and solid, just a solid speech. And rather than go to Schumer's speech, which would have been a great contrast between the 2 visions, but you really get the idea of what the left thinks. Their policies reflect an ideology that is based on certain assumptions, and the people that have written history for them really don't understand context or America. I leave it to you, Professor. Is that true?
Yeah, what really amazes me, and is, kind of the point I was returning to in that piece, is if you hear a typical progressive, and I don't call them liberals anymore, they're progressives, they talk as if they are imparting to you cutting-edge new insights and knowledge. And when you study the history of it, you realize that it is, in some cases 100, in some cases 150 years old. I mean, the whole hard on income inequality, for example, that is so stale. That has been exploded so many times. Nobody takes that seriously, right? It's a gross simplification of our economic system. It's a complete ignorance of how capitalism works. And so you just, sometimes, you hear this over and over, and you want to say, you guys really need to get some new ideas. And they haven't had any new ideas, which is why they keep repeating the same old ideas. War on women, assault weapons. I'm channeling Andrew Cuomo here,
Yeah.
Extremists. Right to life is extremism in their universe. And it's like there's no connection between any kind of reality, any kind of social human reality. It's just almost like a weird cult where they just repeat certain statements over and over again as though they have magical powers. And maybe it's just spending so much time in university, which of course is where the whole place is just marinated in this stuff. Sometimes I just have to shake my head. I don't know. What are you going to do with these people? I'm not sure that they can, anything other than experience is going to straighten them out.
When I think of what they're doing now, and obviously Dinesh D'Souza, I'm taking a good look at the case. I'm not going to, but it did highlight something for me because it's part of a theme, be it Dr. Benjamin Carson being audited or the IRS overall. You know, you've written about it. You get it. So tell me this. Is this when we realize that they're not even making the arguments anymore in the sense that people are believing them because their record is so clear that they just reach more for the levers of power because they know the time is running out?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, there's two approaches to this. The obvious one is they know that it's nonsense, but it is a mechanism of power. You're right. It's a way to fire up the base. It's a way to guarantee yourself a certain percentage of the electorate, and maybe hope you can fool, the rest that you need. And they're not concerned that they can't give a coherent argument in support of it, or they can't, take the evidence and make sense out of it in a coherent way. It doesn't matter, as long as they're in power, as long as they get their way, as long as they create policies that benefit them, then that's what they're going to do. There's no question about that. And that explains a lot of this. I mean, here's what I do want to say about Dinesh D'Souza.
Okay.
And I a lot of his writings I think is pretty good, et cetera. But when you're a high-profile conservative activist, you're making a movie about the sitting president who's a messiah to the other side, right? Mm-hmm. With the media in his pocket, you do not do what he did, whatever your intentions. In fact, I would say you do not endorse political parties or political candidates officially. Whatever you do in the privacy of the voting booth. You know what? I'm not even a registered Republican. I'm an independent. And partly that's because I don't want somebody saying, "Oh, well, you're just a Republican spokesman. You're just a shill for the Republicans," right? Because I'm not. I like to think that most of the positions I come to are the result of thinking about things and studying history and ideas, et cetera. And this just seems to be where it leads. And for him to be that obtuse, to use a polite word, right?
Yeah.
You just put your head in the news. You put your head in the news, and then you want to complain when they pulled it up.
It doesn't make sense. When I saw his lawyer's comment this morning, and again, I read it with Catherine this morning, and actually when we were in bed, I looked at this. I said, "Oh, look at this," and I said, "Okay." And then I read what the lawyer said about making the mistake and giving to 5 or allegedly giving to 5, and I was like, "What is he doing?" And then this on top of what I've seen in the past of his behavior, which has been unsettling, regarding is leaving King's College and that way. I've had him on. He's a nice guy, and he's been amazing in debates, as you've mentioned his record. But it just is like, what's going on here? And that sometimes, I oftentimes ascribe that to those on the left being so out of touch, and the liberal elite, the cocktail party gang to the left, and actually it doesn't really know left, right, or anything else. There is a condition out there that I don't know if it's hubris or being obtuse. I think, very different
Yeah.
things. So it could be a combination
I
of
don't
both.
know.
So who knows? It's
Yeah,
go
I mean,
ahead.
that you have to start first with no idealism about the American political process.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You cannot be surprised that administration like this one, right, which is taking it to new levels, but not inventing really anything new, just taking it to blatant extreme levels, that they will do anything against their political enemies. They will do anything. And we can talk about the right and wrong of it, but the reality is they are going to do it right or wrong. And the press is going to be hypocritical and have a double standard about it. That's just the reality. We can't complain about that now. That's like complaining about gravity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the world that we have to work in. And so what we have to do is keep that in mind. And we have to be better. We have to be more upright. We have to have clean hands we have to be like Caesar's wife, above suspicion, and when something like this happens, or like the guy in Virginia, it's, come on, guys, if you're serious about turning things around and you're serious about getting back into power, so you can do the right thing, not just so you can have power, but you can do the right thing, then we can't make these kinds of rookie errors.
And Professor, even as we speak about this, people will only hear you're condemning them. You're not giving them the opportunity to defend themselves and all power to come to light. Or they're saying you're condoning the behavior of an administration that lives by punish your enemies and use the power to do that. And in no way, say it now, and we're doing this. We're not saying, no, it's not right. It's awful.
Well, of
It's
course
awful.
Not right.
Yeah,
no, it's not condoning it. It's the way it is. It's like condoning a forest fire,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you realize that you haven't been thinning out the forest of the deadwood because of the stupid EPA and Sierra Club and their distorted control over national forests, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you say, well, what are you going to expect? You say, well, you're condoning a fire. No.
Well, that's got to just drive you nuts. That's got to drive you batty. Because go ahead.
Again, one advantage, Crane, of having been in the university is that you get to the point where a lot of this stuff anymore is just like I said, it's sort of like complaining about the neighbor's dog doing his business on your yard and saying that, hey, that smells bad. Of course it does. That's not the issue. The issue is you go down to your neighbor, and back in my day when I probably shouldn't say this, you'd probably go armed, and or you shoot the dog the next time it's on your yard, which down on our place we did a lot of dog shooting out in the country. And then but you don't whine about it. And I don't know. The Obama administration has generated on our side some fantastic critiques, but we're at the point now where, yes, we know that he's a liar. We know that he is beyond progressivism, heading towards socialism. We know he's a narcissist. We know he's an utter failure. We know the media is enabling him. I don't want to hear that anymore. I want to hear about what are we going to do about it? What are the ideas that we're going to communicate to people? And most important, we need to start in on Hillary Clinton pretty quick, because they are planning to have her come in and be the third and fourth term of Obama, and that's where the fight is now. And that's what we have to concentrate on.
Representative Gillibrand really outlined what is going to be part of the foundation of her speech or her platform, because if we see identity politics now with race, we're going to see it on steroids with gender.
You betcha.
And that bums me out, just in the sense that if we are attempting to, again, have a conversation based on the substance in that way, and I know I'm not complaining about it, I'm still thrown by the killing of the dogs. I understand coyotes, of course, Professor, but I think.
Well, wait a minute, Frank.
We were talking about wild dogs, yes?
Here's what happens. Out where we live, which is out on the ghetto side of town, maybe half a mile from the bad neighborhood. Anybody who had animals they didn't want, they'd drive about a mile, 2 miles, and they dump them out around us. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they go feral. And once they go feral, they will. I've seen them kill a calf or run the cattle right into the barbed wire fence. All right, so there's nothing to do but to kill them. And if you have a neighbor who is a bad neighbor and won't keep his dogs under control, and you run the same risk of losing lots of money, all right,
yes,
when one of these animals is killed, then that's how you handle it. Now, you can't do that today. I have somebody who still lives out there who said his neighbor shot a dog on his property and was prosecuted for cruelty to animals. You know,
and because of not allowing for the explanation to be given and understanding the context of it, you get, I don't know what's worse, animal activists or pro-abortion activists when they become, or pro-homosexual marriage activists. And I'm talking about the radicals, not people who, listen, you know, I'm obviously for marriage. I guess I have to call it traditional marriage. I believe that homosexuality is a sin, all that. So people don't try to take things out of context for me. But I don't hate anybody who's gay. I have gay friends. And the fact is, I love them. I don't think I'm in better standing with God. The only thing that separates me from my sin is the blood of Jesus. And like anybody else. But as I look at the radical nature of animal rights activists and the homosexual activists, you're dealing with a nutty lot. And they always accuse people like me, the Christian conservative, you know, people of faith who recognize faith as being, you know, wow, you guys are nuts. No, take a good look at you can look at criminal records of this. I mean, they're crazy. They're nuts.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's another reason why I don't know how you are on a college campus, because I think that obviously the breeding grounds, but obviously they have good security there, I guess, Professor.
Well, no, I mean, me personally is just like, well, it's how we survived out in the neighborhood I was talking about. After my dad sort of fired off some rounds on occasion and, you know, pulled some guns, everybody knew crazy white man on that intersection. Right. And I sort of carried that over to my job, crazy right-wing nut, and so just give him a wide berth. You know what I mean?
But it also goes to a greater point, which is I honestly do not dislike people I disagree with. There's sides of Chris Matthews I actually like and appreciate, because I think he's a pretty bright guy, and he obviously has a great background in history. Working for Moynihan, I think there's some brilliance in there. And I genuinely don't dislike the people on MSNBC, barring, what's his name, the guy who looks like Niles Crane, but 20 pounds heavier, O'Donnell. Yeah, that guy kind of, he riles my feathers, but even then I could probably get along. Bottom line, is there a difference in the way the left and the right are viewing each other? Because on the right, I don't think it's personal. We're always accused of that, and maybe those are my blinders. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And the way I would put it is, we think the other side is wrong. The other side thinks we are evil. Mm-hmm. That's the difference. You see, because we have, most of us, not every conservative is necessarily Christian or endorses a Christian theology, but in Christian theology, right, we understand that we're, as you said, we're all, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. We are all in that same boat. We have to be careful about sorting out the sheep from the goats, because that's going to be the Lord's job, and he knows that. He can look in everybody's heart. See, we have that belief system. Their only belief system is a secular religion, a cult-like attitude that there's the damned who are forever damned, and there are the righteous who are themselves, and the damned are the evil ones, and they have to be, one way or another destroyed or marginalized, etc. And I think that's the difference. Now, not all of them. Let me say, I have people on campus who are progressives. We have friendly relations. We can talk like normal human beings about things.
Amen.
But I have met plenty that, no, it's not just you have a different opinion. It's that you are damned. You know, and that's the big difference in my experience.
And that actually leads us to what we see right now with the likes of de Blasio and the Snowgate, I had to call it. Do you believe the left, the people that are embracing these leaders, even like President Obama, embracing that agenda, do they understand that the only way they're really going to get this through is through the power? And so, because I always talk about being a no hyphens American. We're Americans, and this should upset you. Benghazi should really disturb you. IRS should disturb you. And I'm just wondering, in your sense, when the left is looking at things and they're talking about transparency and open government and war's bad and peace good, which we get that. Tell me your thoughts on, do they understand the use of power, and are they agreeing in it? Yeah. So yeah.
They definitely do. And this goes all the way back to the old progressives in the 1890s. And you go back and read some of these writings. That's all it's about. That's why they didn't like the Constitution, because what does the Constitution do? It disperses power and balances it. All right? That's why they want a strong executive. That's why they don't want to have to deal with Congress. That's why they prefer the Supreme Court when it's on their side. That's why they don't like this sovereign state governments, and they've tried to minimize federalism. That's why they go after the church, any church, because any authority with any kind of power is a threat to theirs. They want to monopolize it all. In this sense, in the strict technical sense, they're totalitarian, as Mussolini defined it. This is not saying they're fascist or genocide and all that, but in the strict, narrow sense of what totalitarian means, it's that you have an all-powerful centralized state, right, that intrudes ever more into people's lives from the local, state, county, at every level. And this is absolutely contrary to the constitutional order, which dispersed power and said, look, whatever thing can be done closest to the people, the municipal government, the county government, the state government, that's preferable. The feds are there to defend us, to deal with interstate issues, which aren't really that many, and that's it. And we've turned our back on that. And what I would like for them to do is to be honest, as they were back in the 1890s, 1900, 1910, Woodrow Wilson said, hey, this thing's outdated, this Constitution. It hasn't evolved. This is a Darwinian world. Things have to evolve to survive. We need to change it. At least that was honest.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, and that would be preferable, because then we could at least stop perverting
we know
the
where
words.
We stand, huh?
Yeah.
We know where we stand, and we know where to have the argument. Yeah.
Professor Bruce Thornton, Hoover Institution. Yes, he is a research fellow there, and he is the author of The Wages of Appeasement. Professor, we're out of time. We always go to the clock. Thank you, my friend. Have a great weekend. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. I will post the article. Live with honor in your life, compassion. Always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. God knows you, loves you. You're worth it. AFR Talk.